Did you see Nancy Pelosi defend insider trading?
I was just about to ask.
What'd you say? I don't know, guys. I'm doing great at it. You guys should try it.
A bunch of people were freaking out about it. I think it was Crystal and Sagar were doing. I didn't watch it, but I did see the headline that she apparently.
Oh, it's incredible! You have to watch it. It's like
she's just bypassing all the laws to make hella cash.
She looks so.
The reason that this idea to put a ban on stock trading for members of Congress is even a thing is because of Nancy Pelosi. I mean, she is rightfully criticized because she makes, I think, $174,000 a year, yet she has a net worth of approximately $413 million. In 2024, Nancy Pelosi's stock portfolio, this was a fascinating statistic to me, grew 70% in 1 year in 2020.
How does a public servant earning a government salary amass a family fortune that rivals Wall Street's most cunning investors? For decades, Nancy Pelosi built an impenetrable fortress around her image, presenting herself as a master legislator, a trailblazer, and a fierce defender of American democracy. But as critics like Joe Rogan have relentlessly exposed, there's a much darker story lurking beneath the polished surface, a story of staggering wealth, impossibly timed stock trades, and a pattern of behavior that has led millions to believe the game is rigged. This isn't just about politics, it's about power, money, and a system that seems designed to benefit the few at the expense of the many.
She's older than Biden. Like, chill out. Go on a vacation.
The things he says are so inappropriate for a president of the United States. The comments he makes about women.
Also, why are you still doing it? You're older than Biden.
You're asking me about the appropriateness of the actions of this president. So completely inappropriate in so many ways. It's almost a given.
It's not even about the money. It's about access, the power.
He comes in with doggy-doo on his shoes, and everybody who works with him has that on their shoes too.
The people who carry your bags and tote you after.
It all begins with the numbers, and the numbers simply don't add up. As Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi's salary was around $223,500 a year. It's a respectable income, but it's a world away from the fortune her family has accumulated. Estimates of their net worth have soared past $100 million, with some reports suggesting it could be as high as $200 million or more. This isn't the kind of wealth you build by saving a government paycheck. This is the kind of wealth that comes from playing the market with what seems to be a sixth sense. In 2021, reports revealed her husband's stock portfolio grew by a jaw-dropping 69%, a figure that didn't just beat the market, it humiliated it. To put that in perspective, her family's investments outperformed some of the most legendary hedge funds, and even doubled the returns of billionaire investor Warren Buffett. It begs the question that hangs over her entire legacy: is it unparalleled financial genius, a historic streak of luck, or access to information the rest of us are legally forbidden from using?
In June of 1996, Nancy Pelosi spoke on the House floor. She urged her colleagues at the time to fight against the status quo trade policies that had contributed to America's trade deficit with China. In fact, Nancy Pelosi said, "How far does China have to go? How much more repression? How big a trade deficit? How many jobs have to be lost for the American workers? How much dangerous proliferation has to exist before members of this House of Representatives will say, 'I will not endorse the status quo'?" Those are the words of Nancy Pelosi in 1996.
To understand the money, you have to understand the man making the trades, her husband, Paul Pelosi. He isn't just a casual hobbyist, he's a seasoned professional who runs a venture capital and investment firm. But even for a pro, his success has been so uncanny it defies belief. He seems to have a golden touch, knowing exactly which stocks are about to pop and when. This has led to the widespread belief that he isn't just a brilliant investor, he's an investor with an inside track, benefiting from the fire hose of confidential information his wife has access to through committee briefings, legislative negotiations, and closed-door meetings that shape the future of entire industries.
Do you see the Nancy Pelosi thing? The new one?
She was being interviewed and then was like, I didn't want to talk about that.
Anderson Cooper. You put that on. Anderson Cooper, he sneaks it in. She's like, I came in here to talk about the anniversary of Medicaid. Like, she cares about Medicaid. She's worth an estimated $400 million now.
How? What's the salary? 70,000 a year?
170 grand a year, something like that. 200 grand a year.
People on this, he doesn't want to see people like Nancy Pelosi enriching themselves off of public service and ripping off their constituents in the process. As for the mechanics of the legislation and how it will move forward, the White House continues to be in discussions with our...
The amount of stock trading that's done by members of Congress, the amount of fucking money that they make when they know decisions that are going to be signed and passed. They know laws that are going to be put into place. They know, like there was one recently that we're talking about Nancy Pelosi and the amount of money she invested in Tesla right before Biden signed this EV bill, electric vehicle bill. It's like 1.2 million. Find out if that's true.
The accusations reached a boiling point with one bombshell trade that many view as the ultimate smoking gun. In the summer of 2022, just weeks before Congress was scheduled to vote on the CHIPS Act, a monumental bill that would inject over $50 billion in government subsidies into the semiconductor industry, Paul Pelosi exercised call options to buy up to $5 million worth of stock in NVIDIA, one of the world's largest chip makers and a prime beneficiary of the bill. The timing was so audacious, so perfectly aligned with pending legislation, it looked scripted. The move ignited a firestorm of public outrage from both the left and the right. Under immense pressure, Paul Pelosi eventually sold the shares, taking a loss to try and quell the controversy. But the damage was done. For millions of Americans, it was the clearest evidence yet that the Pelosi family was playing the stock market with a deck stacked impossibly in their favor. But the NVIDIA trade wasn't an isolated incident. It was just one piece of a much larger and deeply disturbing puzzle. It was part of a recurring pattern of suspiciously fortunate investments. Take, for example, the big tech bonanza. Just before a key House Judiciary Committee advanced a package of antitrust bills aimed at curbing the power of tech giants, Paul Pelosi just happened to purchase millions of dollars in call options for Google's parent company, Alphabet. It was a bet that paid off handsomely. Later, when Microsoft announced its intention to acquire the gaming giant Activision, a deal that would require federal approval, Paul Pelosi bought into Activision. It was another case of placing a massive bet on a corporate outcome that was directly subject to government oversight his wife's branch of government was involved in.
Agreements. Here, let's watch this because it's so funny.
Let me just read what he said. I'm sorry that we had some sort of technical issue. Nancy Pelosi became rich.
Why do you have to read that? We're here to talk about the 60th anniversary of Medicaid. That's what I agreed to come to talk about.
But I wanted
what that means in the election.
I wanted to give you a chance just to respond. He accused you of insider trading. What's your response to that?
That's ridiculous. In fact, I very much support the stop the trading of members of Congress. Not that I think anybody's doing anything wrong. If they are prosecuted and they...
Then there was the green gold rush. As the Biden administration prepared to roll out its massive infrastructure and climate bills, which included huge incentives for electric vehicles, the Pelosis were already positioned to profit. They made a timely investment of over $1 million in Tesla, the leading name in the EV market. Time and time again, their portfolio seemed to magically anticipate the government's next move, whether it was a new subsidy, an antitrust action, or a massive government contract. The Pelosi family fortune seemed to grow in lockstep with the legislative calendar. It was a pattern so consistent it stretched the definition of coincidence to its breaking point. When the media finally built up the courage to confront her directly on these controversies, her reactions only poured gasoline on the fire. In one now infamous press conference, a reporter asked why members of Congress and their spouses should be allowed to trade stocks at all, given the obvious potential for conflicts of interest. Instead of acknowledging the concern, Pelosi offered an answer that dripped with elitist dismissal. "We are a free market economy," she declared. "They should be able to participate in that." The soundbite went viral, cementing her image as a leader utterly disconnected from the ethical concerns of the public. In another clip, a reporter dared to ask the question on everyone's mind: has your husband ever made a stock purchase or sale based on information you've received? Her response was a cold, curt, "No, absolutely not," delivered just before she physically pushed the reporter's microphone away. It wasn't the calm denial of an innocent person. It was the visceral defensive reaction of someone who realized the mask of invincibility was slipping.
Have you talked with the president about his position on the stock trading ban bill before Congress? He obviously had pretty loaded comments about Senator Hawley. There's some reporting that they've since spoken. What is his position on the current status of that bill?
The president has spoken to Senator Hawley, who called him, and the president took that call. As the president said in the Roosevelt Room yesterday, conceptually, he of course supports the idea of ensuring that members of Congress and United States senators who are here for public service cannot...
This apparent hypocrisy isn't a recent development. It's a narrative that stretches back decades. In 1996, a much younger Nancy Pelosi stood on the House floor and railed against China's trade practices, asking how many jobs have to be lost for the American workers before she would act. She positioned herself as a populist, a fighter for the little guy against powerful corporate interests. But fast forward to the 21st century, and that same politician had become the poster child for elite enrichment, her family profiting from the very mega corporations she once claimed to challenge. This transformation from critic to beneficiary is for many the ultimate betrayal of her political origins. This disconnect between her words and her actions extended far beyond her finances. Critics argue her entire political brand became an exercise in performance art. During the darkest days of the pandemic, while millions of Americans were losing their jobs and small businesses were suffocating under lockdowns, Pelosi appeared on a late-night show from her San Francisco mansion. In a moment that would live in infamy, she gleefully showed off her commercial-grade freezer packed to the brim with $13 a pint luxury ice cream. The "Let Them Eat Gelato" clip became a powerful symbol of a political class that was not only insulated from the suffering of the country, but was willing to flaunt it on national television.
Jewel stocks.
Well, insider trading is against the law.
Yeah.
How is that not insider trading?
Right.
If you know that someone's going to sign a bill and that bill is going to be a massive boost to the electrical vehicle industry, just as an example, and you know that bill's going to be signed, so right before that bill's signed, you buy a fuckload of stock in electrical vehicles, and then the next day or whenever it was, that bill gets passed, and then that stock goes up, and you make a shit ton of money. How is that?
This focus on theater over substance became a recurring theme. When she tore up a copy of President Trump's State of the Union address on live television, her supporters saw it as a powerful act of defiance, but critics saw it as a childish tantrum, a piece of political drama designed to energize her base while accomplishing nothing of substance. Similarly, the moment she and other Democratic leaders knelt in the Capitol wearing kente cloths was seen by many not as a genuine act of solidarity, but as a bizarre and cringe-worthy photo op, a moment of cultural cosplay that turned a serious issue into a political branding exercise. Everything, it seemed, was about the optics. Perhaps most damning of all, however, was her role as the gatekeeper of the swamp. For years, there had been bipartisan calls to pass a law that would ban members of Congress from trading individual stocks. It's a common sense reform that a vast majority of Americans support. Yet, under her leadership as Speaker, the legislation went nowhere. It was repeatedly slow-walked, delayed, and buried in committee. This inaction created the powerful perception that she was not just a player in a corrupt game, but the referee who refused to blow the whistle, actively protecting a system that allows the entire political class to enrich themselves while in office.
In 2024, and her portfolio outperformed every single large hedge fund in that same year, and even more than doubled the returns of Warren Buffett's Berkshire. Years later, Nancy Pelosi can thank President Trump today for the 104% retaliatory tariff that will be going into effect on China. In 2007, Chuck Schumer spoke of our nation's crippling trade deficit, saying these are the kinds of records the American people don't want us to be breaking. The administration needs to move beyond words, take action now to reverse a trend that threatens our prospects for future
so transparent, and it's right in front of your face, like the Nancy Pelosi situation. She's never made more than $175,000 a year. She's worth $100 and something million. Did you ever see the one where they confronted her about being able to insider trade? You never saw it?
No.
It's wild.
Over the course of your career, has your husband ever made a stock purchase or sale based on information you've received from you?
No, absolutely not.
Pushes the mic away and leaves.
Her long grip on power also created a generational rift within her own party. While she branded herself as a forward-thinking progressive, many younger, more activist Democrats saw her as a relic of the establishment. They viewed her as a power hoarder, someone more interested in protecting her own position in the status quo than in paving the way for a new generation of leaders with fresh ideas. Her leadership style seemed designed not to mentor, but to control, ensuring that the levers of power remained firmly in the hands of a small, entrenched group of insiders who understood how the game was played. She didn't pass the torch. She held it tightly like Gollum with a pension plan. In the end, Nancy Pelosi is not just one person. She is a symbol of a system that many feel is fundamentally broken. While she is far from the only politician whose family trades stocks, the sheer scale of her family's success and her powerful position made her the most glaring example of a deep systemic rot in Washington, D.C. It's a system where public service and personal profit have become dangerously intertwined, eroding public trust to its core.
Watching the panic in her face, realizing that Trump is now president, and they're talking about literally going after her for insider trading, and the undeniable evidence that they have had better results on the stock market than literally anyone ever.
Yeah.
And they have access to information about laws that are going to be passed.
Yeah.
If that's not insider trading, what?
As she fades from the pinnacle of power, her defenders will point to her legislative achievements and her role as a historic female leader. But for millions of Americans, and for critics like Joe Rogan, who gave voice to their frustrations, her legacy will forever be stained by the shadow of Wall Street. The story that will be told is not one of a trailblazing public servant, but of a political dynasty that mastered the art of turning inside information into incredible wealth. The final question isn't just about her, it's about the country she led. How can a democracy function when its citizens believe their leaders are not serving them, but are simply serving themselves? History will write the official version, but in the minds of the public, the image of a malfunctioning animatronic, dodging questions about impossible wealth, may be the one that endures.